Game on.
Oops. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pipeline, our TV after show. Not always TV because things come up. Uh, I'm your host, Darren McClimans, and I'm here today with two very special guests. I started the week not knowing if I'd have anyone on this week, and I have two amazing guests here today. Obviously, Superhero Nexus, a content creator I've been wanting to reach out to for quite a long time. I've been kind of gathering up a lot of the people I've kind of been talking to, and I'm like, you know what? Let's get this man on. How are you, buddy?
I'm all good, mate. Thanks for having me on. It's been a while in the works, and
Sure.
I'm hyped to talk about the sickest movie in the MCU,
Sure.
and yeah, just really excited to be here.
Yeah. And then we have the man that's actually named Buddy. I have to make a joke about it every time you're on here. Obviously, you've been on a couple of times now, and each time I'm done. I'm like, when can I ask again? And this time you asked, and
I
that was
did.
always amazing.
I did. I couldn't help it. You know, I haven't done YouTube in a while, and it was like no movie has really gotten me to like want to talk about it online again until Guardians 3. Like I was just laying down, and I saw your tweet yesterday or something like that, and I'm like, you got room for one more? Like I really want to talk about this movie because it was just so good. It was so good. So I'm
Yeah,
happy
man.
to be here.
Yeah, no, man. Like anytime, man. I'm always like, I don't know how soon is too soon to text you, but
Yeah.
it's great to have you on here. But before we do get into this episode, this long discussion about Guardians 3, which I think we're all very excited to talk about, I have a couple of headlines here that I did want to bring up. Superhero-y type content type things. So obviously the big writer strike is going on currently. So a lot of projects are getting put on hold, getting pushed back. The one that I find the most funny here, though, I won't say funny, but a little frustrating for a lot of people, is Blade. Now, Blade is a movie, feels like I get the same vibe from Blade as I get with like Flash and like New Mutants and stuff like that, where it just seems like a really bad luck movie. What are your guys' thoughts on this movie, just like in general, and what the fate of this film is, and do we think it like will ultimately be good after so much things have like seeming to be happening with this movie?
I just don't think it's going to happen. It just doesn't feel like it's one of those ones where it's. You read a good point about being New Mutants, where it's just like it was in like hell. And then quite literally with Blade, but you know, with this, and I don't know how they're getting it wrong because obviously Wesley Snipes, wasn't it? I believe Blade. I'll probably absolutely brain farting right now, but those two or three, sorry, were fantastic. But I think that the problem here is that they're probably struggling to adapt to like is it R-rated? It would be like 18 in 18 in the UK would be to having that. I don't know how Blade would fit in. Obviously you had Werewolf by Night,
Sure,
and you've got obviously the Black Knight, Dane Whitman as well, but they were both they trod the line. But Blade, you can't just have that as a imagine PG-13 would it be in America? Yeah, like a.
Well, that's the thing that I think is kind of interesting because it is currently a PG-13 movie, but we have like Deadpool 3 coming, which will be like their first like rated R project. So I wonder if like they're testing the. I think Deadpool 3 is really the testing of the waters of like, will people come and watch this movie? Will people with our like Disney logo? Will people come to see this? And I think that this movie might be in a weird balancing act of like, should we push it forward or should we like tone it down? Like I'm very curious to see kind of what the ultimate tone is going to be.
I think back in the day when Spider-Man 2 came out in the UK, there was quite a big thing about having a 12A rating. And I'm ancient now, but back then it was huge that a Spider-Man movie would be a 12A because you couldn't just go and see it with your friends. You'd have to actually, if you were under 12, you actually had to have an adult with you. And they did that with a few of the Bond movies were 12. So I think that this is that moment again.
Sure.
And having that Disney logo in front of Marshall Ali just wiping the floor with vampires. It's a tough one. But I think they just need to commit and do it.
Yeah. I think it's a really interesting time for like superhero movies because Sony, which is also with these like Marvel properties, they now have the Craven the Hunter movie, which is going to be like a rated R movie. We also have James Gunn's like universe having like just from their starting point, they have like a like rated R horror movie. So I think that's very. I think Disney is at a point where they kind of have to step it up if they want to like compete with all these other people. And I think this just the whole genre of like superhero movies and shows are changing, and I think they have to. Like I think we're at a point where I think you either have to change them or leave them behind.
Yeah, I agree.
I think this movie's in a weird area for me because it's like seeing over the course of the last like I don't know 8 months or so or however long it's been, we've seen that like directors have been fired from this movie, the writers have been fired from this movie. I think 1 or 2 times over, and there was one time they brought in a script that was like the minimum amount of pages required, like 120 pages, and it like did not work at all. Like that just doesn't sound good up front, so that gets me worried. We had that post-credit scene in Eternals where I believe we had a voice cameo teasing something potentially down the road, and it just feels like the more and more I hear about this movie, the less positive it is. And it makes me scared. And I can like see into the future, the headlines, Marvel fumbles the bag again. I can see the internet discourse already. And the movie hasn't even begun, really. Like I can see that potential down the line.
Sure.
And that's disappointing. I feel like there's a conversation to be had with the DC extended universe. It was always them trying to catch up to Marvel. It was always them trying to catch up. I feel like now with the DCEU, the DCU, sorry.
Yeah.
It throws me off. But like you said, we have a lot more variety in Gods and Monsters already with the age range and the viewer stuff. I think Marvel's going to have to start catching up at some point with maturing with their audience, because I feel like that's something we're struggling with. Trying to enter darker themes with like Werewolf by Night and stuff like that we talked about. To me, that's what's really interesting. And of course, we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I think that's a phenomenal example of maturing with your audience as the trilogies and movies go on. And I feel like Disney and Marvel are going to have to eventually allow things to be rated R. Like there's not going to be time or allowance for PG-13 all the way through when James Gunn is allowing all these creatives to do all their stuff.
Sure.
And we're still going with the assembly line. Like there's going to be a change. And I feel like Blade it's going to be a rough one. I'm a little nervous about this one. I'll be honest.
I honestly, I think the issues with like Marvel currently is that not that their movies are always bad, but they don't have enough time. Like they put so much out all at once that they don't have time to fix the current line of projects. So like they can I think that they listen to people. I really do think that they listen to fans, and these next 4 or 5 years will be better because they will listen to them and be like, oh, we need to make better films. We need to hire more directors. I think we will see that, but I think it's going to take a while to get there. So I'm hoping with Blade getting put on stop a little bit, that allows them to have more of a chance to be like, hey, let's make this movie really, really good. Like, let's make this like a Guardians 3. Let's make this like a Black Panther 2. Let's put some effort into this where maybe we wouldn't have already. So I'm hoping good things. I hope it's good. I hope it impresses everyone as a whole.
Yeah, I hope it's good. I agree with you. I think they need to slow it down a bit. It's very evident, like with the Disney Plus stuff. I was, like we were saying before we started, I was entertained by a lot of it, but it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not as good as when they had time to work on stuff. And I'd rather them work on this because it's going to carve out a really core part of the MCU that Werewolf by Night didn't start, but you had the Eternals with Dane Whitman and that. And you mentioned about how you need to get some good top tier people in, but I was disappointed with the Eternals because it had Chloe Zhao and Nomadland was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I believe it won Best Picture as well. And then you had that movie, which just felt like an action figure advert the whole time.
Yeah, me and Buddy talked about this last time, but it does really feel like with at least Marvel, and I guess just like Disney as a whole with like their like live action movies and stuff, like it almost feels like directors don't matter because like the same project is going to be made either way. And I think that's one thing that feels very refreshing about like James Gunn's thing, where it feels like he's going to have a big focus on like directors and filmmakers and writers and artists. And, we haven't seen anything from that world yet. So maybe that's all just like a bunch of like BS. But,
no, I agree with you. The most important part is that I've mentioned this on Twitter a while ago when when they had like that Gods and Monsters announcement. He had the comics there.
Yeah.
He had. You want to read it? And after all of their trailers, I noticed they have all of the comics again.
Yes.
Like Flashpoint. You can tell they're adapting the comics, which Marvel just for some reason don't want to do.
Yeah.
Which they never have verbatim, but I think that you need to just go back to the source material because there's a reason why we've read it for decades.
Sure. So speaking of James Gunn, I have a couple of Superman Legacy type news that's come out over the last couple of, I guess, week or so, which I'm so excited for this movie, man. So Crypto the Super Dog will be in James Gunn's Superman Legacy. Now, when it was first announced that he was directing this movie, I knew. I'm like, oh yeah, like this is James Gunn. He's going to have this character in there. What do you guys think about this? Are you excited for this character?
I lost it when I saw this and I saw the interview with Chris Pratt. I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're good. The best live action Superman is coming. Like it's happening. This confirmed it for me because James Gunn is so good when it comes to animals in his films, and obviously we'll talk about that with Guardians. Obviously with Eagly, with Peacemaker. Getting these connections with characters and animals, he is such a natural at telling those stories. This is easily going to be like a great inclusion. I think people who are upset by this may think that Crypto is going to be like Clark's sidekick throughout the entire adventure. Yeah. I don't think that's going to be the case. I saw someone bring up the idea that maybe Crypto's on the farm with Martha Kent in Smallville, and we see him every once in a while, or just in Metropolis, just little bits and pieces here and there. But I think just the idea of Crypto being here from the start, that makes me think of Ace the Bat Hound. That makes me think of things in the future. Like that to me sounds so exciting. And to just know that there's going to be this great relationship with these two in this film. I'm so confident in James Gunn with this. I love this.
Yeah, I agree. I saw it at first. I was like, I thought it was just a meme that someone had just tweeted after. Obviously, we've just had Guardians with all the animals, and I thought, oh, but he just gets it. James Gunn, he just gets it. I was like, wasn't sure about Peacemaker because I was just like, it just screamed like just cash in. But again, like you said with Eagly, you had the character in like the animal characters in Suicide Squad, and I think it's just gonna be fun. And to me, this speaks that he gets Superman, he gets the wider DC universe, and I mean, he even mentioned Batmite in Peacemaker.
Yeah.
So I think that he is going to do well with this. I'm just a bit concerned about when in the timeline. I don't want to see Krypton blowing up for the billionth time. Right. I just want him to be the Man of Tomorrow on Earth, established like the Batman that they did with that. I don't need to see his dad again. We don't need to see Jor-El. We've seen it a million times. Just let him work at the Daily Planet, have his dog either on the farm or in Metropolis, and just be a positive, upbeat Superman. Which the James Gunn kind of emotion works here, because a lot of people have said he's edgy, and no, he has the heart. So I'm super pumped for a good Superman movie.
I really just think we need just a Superman movie. Like, I think so many of these movies like try to like reinvent the model or like introduce the model. Just give us Superman. Just make a movie with Superman in it, and you strike gold. Like, I like Man of Steel a lot. Like, I like that movie, but it feels like we never have got past that like introductory point. Like, it feels like we stuck there and we've been unable to move forward. So I think the timeline here is going to be very interesting, because it's not like an origin story, but he's also like doesn't seem like he's full-fledged. My dog's barking. I'm so sorry.
That's right.
But like not full-fledged Superman either. So I'm very curious like where in the timeline this does kind of set in. I kind of hope we're like in a point where like maybe Lois doesn't know yet, but they're dating, where they can maybe have like a fun like back and forth still.
Yeah, I just hope that we're there. I think you're right. That kind of like sweet spot between
Mhm.
the kind of like a year two sort of thing.
Yeah.
I would say, or that. But you're right. We are in a perpetual Smallville state of: is he going to put on the suit? Is he
Yeah.
going to? He's flown,
Sure.
fights a villain. The end. It's just. But I liked Man of Steel. But I think the Superman and Lois proves that you can have Superman. But I am behind with that show. So I'm on like season, whatever the latest season is, like episode 3. I'm just waiting until it comes to the UK properly to watch it.
So lastly, also evolving, I assume that this one is going to feel very, I don't know what happened there. This one very quickly. So apparently there is a cast member from Guardians of the Galaxy in Superman Legacy. I have a feeling that this is kind of like a troll type thing. Like I have a feeling it's going to be like the most minor character. Do you guys have any theories on like who this could be?
There's so many. Karen Gillan could be Lois Lane. She could be Lana Lang. Kraglin. Sean Gunn could be Jimmy Olsen. You got Chris Pratt, who could be anyone. But yeah, I think you're right. It's a bit of a troll who it could be.
Like, I don't think it's going to be like Chris Pratt as Superman, as like everyone's saying. Like, I think it's going to be probably someone, maybe even like Vin Diesel as like a villain or something could be kind of cool.
Yeah, that could work.
I agree with both of you. I think it's definitely like a joke. I think it's Sean Gunn. I think that's the obvious answer because it's just his brother. Obviously his brother's going to be in the movie. He's in all of his movies, and it's like that opens the whole discussion of like suddenly we're mad at James Gunn for putting his friends and family into movies, which that's just stupid. What? That's a stupid complaint. But I always saw that as just Sean Gunn. But this does lead me into something I am interested in. I hope Bradley Cooper's in the DCU moving forward in a role that's not behind just like a voice role. Yeah. I would love to see Bradley Cooper as somebody big. I don't know if he would be like a Hal Jordan Green Lantern because I don't know how old we're going, but I would love to see him just as a leading person in the DCU. Same with Karen Gillan. I know she talked about being Poison Ivy. I don't know how likely those are, but you bringing up Lois Lane, I was like, damn, that's a good idea too. That's a great idea. I think she could pull it off.
I think I don't know if she could top Superman and Lois Lane. She's my favorite by far.
Elizabeth Tulloch is the best Lois Lane I've ever
Perfect.
seen.
But yeah, I think you're right with Sean Gunn. I think definitely.
That's solid. It would be kind of interesting because he already has 2 characters. So it'd be funny if he's just in every movie. I can't remember the actress's name, but the actress that plays Lila in this movie and also plays Hawkeye's wife.
Oh yeah.
She's really good. I would love her. I don't know who you'd cast in this movie. She could do like an old Lois Lane, but I can't see like a young Lois Lane.
Yeah, I think she'd. Maybe depends how young you go, Superman, because you could potentially have her. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Like a young Martha.
Yeah, she could do the hottening of Martha.
Yeah.
Just like Aunt May. Yeah. Linda Cardellini, that's it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She's great.
Remember her from Freaks and Geeks.
Oh yeah.
The GOAT show.
But yeah, with all that being said, I think we can kind of just jump in to our chat for Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, obviously, we're talking spoilers, full end, everything off the table. If you're still watching, there's one person watching. Thank you, that one person. I appreciate it. But if you've not seen Guardians, leave. You're on good. Go see this movie. It's amazing. So kind of just right off the bat here, just kind of like your non-spoiler type, just like right off the bat thoughts of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Just emotional. I was almost crying. Teefs and Lila and Floor, was it the rabbit?
Floor, yeah.
That's it, yeah. Just emotional, and possibly I may get some flack. Possibly the best villain in the MCU, I would say. Just possibly the best, and just an absolute wild ride. Did not want it to end. Did not want that movie to end. And yeah, that's all I can say for non-spoilers before I get into anything else.
Buddy,
I think this is James Gunn at his best. Everything I've seen from James Gunn, we've seen his personality and his writing and his direction. I think this is easily the best amalgamation of everything he's done. I think he really nailed it. I think this film tackles some themes that I didn't expect, and I loved it. If you're getting flack, so am I. I think the High Evolutionary is probably the best villain.
Interesting.
We have many empathetic villains like Thanos, or you have one-dimensional villains that get randomly redeemed at the end, like Gore. And it's just somewhere in between there, you have someone like the High Evolutionary, who is probably the best antagonist we've had in an MCU movie, based off of those themes that I can't spoil in the non-spoiler section. But I think he's great. I think it's really good, and I think that it's nice to have some finality to a story. You know, it really did feel like this was the end of this Guardians of the Galaxy team, and I think the marketing kind of nailed what it was trying to do, and also keeping things kind of more suspenseful and surprising for us, even if you watched all of the trailers and stuff. I think they nailed it all around.
No, I mean, I came out of this, it was such a weird experience because I kind of felt like I was in a fog the entire time. Like the whole experience was so like surreal, where I'm like rewatching this and I'm like, I didn't remember a lot of this movie, just because I think like the whole experience of it kind of had me in this like starstruck like fog that I haven't felt like this in the MCU in a while. Like there's very few films that like leave me kind of just like speechless after like coming out of it. And I think that's such a great feeling. And it's a feeling that I want to feel more coming out of these movies. Like this was an art piece. And it hasn't felt like, the MCU hasn't felt like an art piece in a while. It felt like product, which is fine every once in a while. But like, I want more like pieces of art. And I guess that's kind of my best way to put it. As we kind of move into our like spoiler type chat.
Yeah, I just loved it.
Yes. I want to ask you guys this before we go into Guardians 3, but so we had the conversation of like our feelings of going out of MCU movies. I feel like since Endgame, the next most positive the world has been was Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think with this, right? So I loved Spider-Man No Way Home, but I cannot help but see the flaws of the film. I cannot help it. Even that first night I saw it, you know, recency bias, whatever, my love for Spider-Man got in the way for a lot of it. But now I'm starting to see those flaws. I think that movie had a lot of the heart. I don't know if it had the soul. I think Guardians 3 is the best thing we've had in the MCU because it has both. I feel like we had a great story in Spider-Man No Way Home, a wonderful inclusion of our 3 live-action Spider-Man together, but something felt like it was still missing, like a distinct style from the other two's world or whatever, the direction style, whatever it may be. I feel like with James Gunn in this Guardians film, he nailed the heart, he nailed the soul, he nailed everything about it, where I just think this is probably the actual peak of the MCU. A lot of people thought it was Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it's this one. I think this is the real peak of the MCU because it's beyond even just the lens of nostalgia. You could use if you want. I don't really care. It's not a great argument for me, but like it doesn't have that. It just has the maturity of the 10 years of what we've been on with these characters. Yeah. And I remember when Guardians 1 was coming out, everyone thought it was going to be a flop, you know, and it's just like to see how far we've come with the most consistent trilogy. And personally, I can only speak for myself, the best comic book movie trilogy I've ever seen. The next one that you can compare to is the Dark Knight trilogy. I love that trilogy. I don't connect to it as emotionally as I do with this one. And I love it. And I don't think the MCU's topped it. I want to know what you guys think about that.
Yeah. With No Way Home, it's tough. I liked seeing Toby back. He was like my Spider-Man. I like Andrew Garfield. He redeemed himself in my eyes. Never thought he was a good Spider-Man. I hated those first 2 movies. It felt very much like Member Berries. It was like, let's give the fans what they want. We've got like I feel like they when the deal with Sony and Fox and everything kind of was settled, they were like, let's just give the fans everything. And you're right, it had the heart, but it didn't have the soul. There was no story. The spell stuff, I was just like, I mean, it was fun at the time. It was entertaining, but there was no story there. There was no there was stakes, but it felt hollow. and cheap at times, I thought, and I enjoyed it. I absolutely enjoyed it, but I think Guardians had that kind of weight behind it. You had Rocket, you had the whole things with Chris and Quill and Gamora.
Yeah.
You had the finality of everything. And I think, yeah, it is the perfect trilogy. But I would say Captain America might have been for me the better one, just because
I agree.
it had the solid middle movie with Winter Soldier, and then it had Civil War, which it had everyone, but it also had like that story. It continued on from Winter Soldier very well. But yeah, I think it definitely is the best one since Endgame by an absolute country mile.
And it's valid, by the way, the Captain America trilogy. I totally get
Yeah.
it. That's a very valid pick.
I saw the wheels spinning. I was like, will he react to that? I don't know.
I think Civil War is the worst of the 3 Captain America movies. I feel like that's a hot take.
But
I would kind of agree. I think not. It's not the people say, oh, this was the worst one of it when it was still good. Like it was still really, it was like solid. It was just Winter Soldier is just
Winter Soldier was phenomenal.
That's my favorite. That's among my favorite movies ever. Like I love the Winter Soldier. I think it's amazing.
Yeah,
but no, same. I think there's definitely a difference between like I love No Way Home a lot. Like I really, really do. But there's definitely a element of like restrictions to it. Like it feels like that movie feels like it was made by a company, where this movie feels like it was made by a filmmaker. And again, that's not always a bad thing. But again, like I look at these like live action like Disney movies a lot, and there to me feels a big difference to their like most popular ones to their like smaller characters, to like their smaller ones. So like Lion King to me felt like this massive thing that they had to get perfect. It had to be right. It felt like Disney was holding its hand the entire time. Where like Jungle Book, maybe a not so popular movie now, they were like, yeah, just kind of do whatever you want, John. Just like go at it. And I think there is a big difference when it comes to those two. I guess Peter Pan is now kind of like an exception because I didn't like that movie too much. But no, I would agree with you. I feel like this felt like I didn't even think about the whole soul thing, but there is so much heart and soul in this movie. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I agree with the whole Lion King thing. The live actions are just. I only just watched the Lion King live action recently, and it was. It just really felt like someone did it on like AI art on like Midjourney or something.
Yeah,
it was just soulless.
I have such a love-hate with all these movies. Like I get excited for each one, and then I'm always kind of a little heartbroken. But like I do love some of them. Like there's some I actually think are like really solid. But like
Beauty and the Beast was good. I really enjoyed that.
It was pretty good. Yeah.
I liked Aladdin. Yeah.
Oh,
you didn't like Aladdin? Oh no.
See, the thing is, like, Lion King was the first movie I saw in the cinema, like back in '94, and then Aladdin. Like I grew up with these, so you have that connection to. Obviously, I agree. My genie was Robin Williams, and it was just like, it's tough to remove yourself from like that bias. But I thought,
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so the lad who played Aladdin I thought it was good. I thought Aladdin and Jasmine were good, but it just, I don't know why they're doing them. But I'll still be seated for Little Mermaid.
Yeah, I can go on a whole tangent here, but I want to kind of gear back to Guardians here. So I kind of just want to because it's always kind of hard to like where do you start? But let's just kind of start with it. What was everyone's favorite moment from this movie? Do you guys have like a favorite scene?
Oh, okay. So the hallway scene is great, right? That's not what I want to talk about. It's the okay. For real, spoilers. If anybody is still here, please go. The 360 shot of every Guardian kicking that motherfucker's ass was so good. This was like with me in the theater. You know, I was sitting there and I was like crying. I went through all the emotions. When they started doing that with the High Evolutionary, I got out of my seat. I was like, yeah, that was like the coolest thing I had ever seen. I love the hallway scene, but them doing the face off with the face off. I loved it. That was brilliant. The RoboCop setup earlier with that joke as well. I love that. The emotional core of just just Rocket facing the High Evolutionary, being prepared, even with the rocket boots from the earlier or the gravity boots from the first act, coming back in the third act to help him with that. That was great. Seeing all the Guardians coming back in to help Rocket, that's great too. And they each got their own moment to like kick his ass. Like that.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I love that. That was more satisfying than Thanos for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for
Nexus,
me,
do you have one?
yeah, there's so many,
there's
so many moments. But what I thought was probably the standout was when the guy, the High Evolutionary, was just like when Rocket worked it out, when he said like the chemical thing. I don't know what it is. I failed chemistry, but he was just like, why can you understand it, but I don't. I thought that was just, it really spoke to that character, and it just, I thought, I can't pronounce his name. I couldn't pronounce it in my Peacemaker videos. So the guy who played him, he just knocked it out of the park there, where he was just like that. And also the bit with Nathan Fillion where they land, that whole kind of 2001 Space Odyssey spacesuit with Mantis when it's like, hello, that floored me. That whole sequence with Nathan Fillion, really which made me wonder why Nathan Fillion has not been a leading man in a comic book movie. The biggest crime of the century. But
maybe it's him. Maybe he's like Lex Luthor.
Ooh. That's an interesting choice.
Let them cook.
That's different.
But yeah, that those two probably those were the two standouts for me. And
yeah,
without even talking about Counter Earth, which was just perfect.
Cool. My favorite, man, like this whole sequence, like I think this was the peak of the movie for me. Like the whole, like with them like getting the piece to like save Rocket, all up until like the end of the movie was perfect. But I think the scene where they finally like Rocket is like safe, he's good, and they're talking to like Nebula over the radio, and when Nebula, I'm like tearing up even talking about it, but like when she hears her voice and she has like a breakdown, she's like, oh my god, like I like that connection between those two characters is might be one of my favorite things in the entire MCU now. Like that might be up there. That might be top 5 MCU scenes for me. I love like character stuff. Like that's my bread and butter. Like characters and like their connection, this found family. And I think both Rocket and Nebula are in my top 10 MCU characters now. Like after this movie, like they're both just so good. Oh, I cried both times. I'm not even gonna lie.
No, I don't blame you. I cried both times I saw it too, and that moment was phenomenal. And you know, there's been recent talks with, especially all these interviews, with like, did James Gunn like or not like what they did with the Infinity stuff with his characters? The Nebula and Rocket connection, we have to thank those movies for.
Oh yeah,
that's what really sealed the deal for me, and it made me think in that scene, like contextually, these other Guardians, they don't know necessarily what their relationship was during those 5 years they were gone.
Yeah.
So, and they also talked. There's a through line with the movie where like Nebula's like basically criticizing Drax and Mantis, and then eventually I think Mantis talks about like how Nebula's lacking in her emotions or something like that. I can't remember exactly. And then just a few minutes later, you see her have that like heart drop moment with Rocket. Like that solidified her arc over the 10 years with her. And back when the Infinity movies were going on, it frustrated me how Nebula never got like a blow against Thanos the way I wanted her to.
Sure.
With that character. And honestly, I was disappointed with that until this movie, because I'm like, no, she's grown above that. She's grown above Thanos, even putting herself and her trauma. Because it's weird to compare trauma, so I'm not going to get into that. But like, she puts her own stuff aside for Rocket when they see in the clip showing that like this is worse than something Thanos did to me, and I'm like, just their camaraderie, that connection, like that that was beautiful, and that goes back to the heart and the soul right there. Like it's beautiful storytelling.
Yeah, I absolutely loved that bit. It was just so good how they kind of just added that through, and it made me. I always thought when we saw them together in start of Endgame, I was like, why is there no blip movie? Why is there nothing between them? But I thought they did really well with that, and I thought that the whole stuff with Gamora and Nebula worked really, really well, where she was just kind of, it wasn't her sister, but it was, and
Sure.
she didn't seeing Zoe Saldana have to play that character who has forgotten didn't even live those moments, and seeing how the opposite of her in Guardians 2 to now, they've basically swapped, and it's just like you said, the through line is just expert.
Yeah, it didn't really hit me until like going into the movie, where like how important I think she was to this whole thing. Because I think without Zoe, without Groot, a lot of these characters are now kind of gone. Like they really needed like a good like co-lead, and like with Rocket kind of out of things, with like of course Gamora kind of out, like they needed a really good leading like co-lead, and I think she killed it. Like I think Karen absolutely knocked it out of the park. I can't think of what this movie would have been like without her, and how they kind of would have like who would have been that spot if it wasn't for her. Maybe Mantis, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would have been Mantis, but it wouldn't have been as good. And kind of, I remember I was watching Holiday Special, and I thought, what's the point of this? But they laid a lot of the groundwork with Nowhere and Nebula and that, and I thought that was really good.
I think the pairing of Drax and Mantis was solid. That was a good one right there, because you could have messed that pairing up. I think they complement each other very well, and I think this is probably Drax's best appearance. I found that to be good, because something, I don't know if this guy's made you emotional, but it definitely made me tear up whenever Nebula's like, you weren't born to be a destroyer, you were born to be a dad. Like that really got to me. And it's like we never, as the audience, saw his family.
No.
We never saw that. So I think it's just really interesting how just through the characters' actions and the stuff, once again with the through line of these films, like that really hit me. Just because it's like, once again, everybody's rising above their past, and it's like that's a big through line of the film, and just Guardians 3, finding yourself, and it's like to have the emotional maturity of Nebula and everything she's gone through, telling that to Drax after everything that they've gone through. It's just like that man, that's just beautiful. That stuff I don't think the MCU can replicate after this, because it truly felt like one of a kind to get so many satisfactory conclusions for these characters, and we didn't have to kill them to get there.
Yeah, that's the best bit. That I think is the fact that I was thinking, who's going to die? You think you had like the thing with Rocket, and then you had the stuff with Peter, and then you were just like, you don't have to die.
Yeah.
Their story could be told. You don't have to just kill someone off.
I think the whole marketing for this movie was so funny, because like they really did set up that like someone was going to die, and I said from like day one, Rocket's not dying. Like that's the easy choice. like the entire marketing was surrounded around like Rocket's dying, and it is funny because he like that's a lot of the movie is Rocket dying, which is something I was not expecting. Like I thought it was going to be like a final arc type thing, but no. Like I think like I was halfway through, and I thought to myself, yeah, they can't die. Like no one can die. Like that, I think like completely destroys the entire point of this movie, which I think like the main theme for me was like the like importance of life. Like what is life worth living? And I think if you automatically kill Drax, because I think that was like who like everyone thought like, oh yeah, Drax is dead. Like he's totally dead. And I think that could have worked for his arc, because he started like movie one like wanting to die for his family. If he died for this family, I think that still could have worked. But I think him like becoming a father that like he never got to be for his like own kids, I think that's perfect as well. And he's a character I think out of everyone I feel the most like content with. Like I don't ever need to see that character again. I don't think we ever will see him again. I think that's kind of just like a perfect bow.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think his story. I think the only time you'd ever see him again is they do stuff on like Nowhere with all those kids like and that. But yeah, I think his story was just so good that you can now.
Yeah,
I think the only time he would have only have died really I could think of, which would have been a meaningful moment, would be in Infinity War if he was on Titan to fight. I think if he died then and got the win, then would be a good time to die. But I think it's just cheap if he dies now, and
sure,
and yeah, it's the beauty of life. I never expected that ending with the legendary Star-Lord. Didn't think that would happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think kind of like the interesting thing, and I don't want to go into this movie thinking like, what's next for our heroes? Because I think that's like what Marvel wants us to be like.
Yeah.
All right, what's the next 20 projects? But like, I do think they ended it very interestingly, where like outside of like some of these actors being like, yeah, I'm done. It feels like any one of those characters could just pop in at any point. Like I think they end each character being like, oh yeah, we could see them again, especially us knowing that Star-Lord is coming back, which is not something I thought they would at least announce. Like I thought maybe Star-Lord would have been in like the next batch of like Avengers movies. I thought they could have done that. But like what do you like where do you guys think that we might see some of these characters again?
With legendary Star-Lord, it's weirder because the comic isn't really anything really like what we've had. So I think that it's just bizarre. But I think that we might see Gamora at some point just pop up here and there. But to be honest, I'm happy not to see them again. Their story's been told.
Sure.
And as I would like to see more of Adam Warlock. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie by a long way. But I
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I loved it.
Okay.
Absolutely I'll get into that one when we get to that bit. I'm gonna but yeah, I think that the end, I thought it was the good journey of Rocket, because it was the whole in the second one it was like who's captain Infinity War. You had the funny thing with where they split off and they had that. I think that's the end. But obviously they're going to come back. So
I saw somebody post because I don't need to see these characters ever again. Except Adam Warlock. I do agree with that. But somebody posted on Twitter that in the Guardians Holiday Special, the only characters that popped up in that post-credit scene teasing a secondary sequel were Cosmo, Rocket, and Groot. And so I'm like, I wonder if that is who we're going to see next in a holiday special next year.
Oh, sure.
Or something like that, because it's like, why are they the only three in that scene? And I'm like, oh, that's actually an interesting idea. Did they think that far ahead? Probably not, but you could capitalize on that. Sure. Star-Lord could return in a Disney Plus show, but this was good enough for me. This was great. The only character who I'd like to see again is Adam Warlock. And I think maybe this is a hot take too, but yeah, I liked Adam Warlock in this film. I thought he was fun. I thought he was pretty cool. And it's like, there's the discourse of making the super cool, badass character from the comics into the goofy guy who doesn't know what he's doing. That's a trope in the MCU, but I think Will Poulter pulled it off. I think he nailed it. I thought it was pretty cool. I think the only thing I didn't like was he flying because of rocket boots instead of just like abilities? Like
I didn't understand that.
That was like the only one that got me.
Yeah, it's like he had the bleeding edge Tony Stark armor on, where his legs turned into rockets or something. Like
that was weird.
I didn't understand that.
That was the only thing that got me. Yeah, and that's a nitpick at best. I mean, he's still flying. At least he's flying around. I don't know. I think he could evolve for sure.
I have a feeling, because I don't think you should do another Guardians without James. I think that should be his trilogy. So what I think we're going to do is I think you will have an Adam Warlock movie, and it will be like a secret Guardians film. Like I think it will follow like that like small team of like new Guardians will like be in like the Adam Warlock trilogy or film or series or like whatever it is. And that's their way of like continuing those characters. But I think out of all the characters, Rocket should be one that like I don't see what you could possibly do with Rocket. Like he can be in crossover movies and stuff, but like I don't know where you could possibly take that character without kind of like progressing him. Like I feel like he's at the perfect spot. Unlike Star-Lord, where kind of felt like I think Star-Lord was the one, like even in this movie, I felt like, oh, we haven't done much with this character to like, I guess he was kind of at like a stopping point, but like he felt like out of all the characters, we're like, oh yeah, he has more story to tell. Like this isn't his endpoint.
Yeah. With the Rocket, I think the only thing, if you had to do something, would be like a bounty of the week or something on a Disney Plus show. That's really it. But I don't need to see any of that again.
I would like him on the Avengers lineup. I think him and Groot would be cool there, but like I don't need like a I guess a story with them, and I guess that sounds bad. But
Yeah.
like if they're just there to kind of like be like with the characters, I think that could be cool.
Yeah.
But no, I don't want any long like long term storytelling with those characters. I think
Yeah,
I just don't see what you could possibly do. Like
I think having a revolving Avengers would be good. I think they need to now work towards the Avengers because
go ahead, sorry.
yeah, it's just with the Avengers, I've just throughout the whole of the MCU, I've just been like, are they a team? They keep splitting up.
Oh yeah.
And then you had the thing in Age of Ultron where it's like the new class, and then the next movie they all just split up.
Yeah.
And it's never felt like the Avengers is like a
team. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Seven in the boys. You're like, they are always they're cemented in. But yeah, having like having seen some of these characters come back in a revolving door of the Avengers movies would be quite cool. Because I want to see Rocket again because I like him, but I don't like you. I don't necessarily need to see him lead a movie because they've all come full circle, which is quite impressive actually.
I think the Avengers are weird because there are literally too many characters to put on there right now. Like you could have a 40 cast thing for like all these characters that we've introduced through phase 3 and then phase 4. Like phase 4 was all about introducing so many characters, and if you have every lead, like that's a massive cast. Like I don't know how we can fit it all in.
That's because they shot themselves in the foot. They didn't have the secondary teams. They didn't have with Hawkeye or She-Hulk. You could have had West Coast Avengers. They could have set that up. They could have had the Young Avengers.
Which is a good point. I guess that could still be happening. I feel like it has to, but I don't. Yeah. I feel like by the time we get it, they're all like 30. So
nailed it. Yeah. Yeah. We're waiting too long on that one.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. And then again, are people going to turn up for a end of phase West Coast Avengers movie? Like, is the general public who just watch the MCU, they're like, what's that? But then you could have a Great Lakes Avengers and and everything like that. So,
hearing you guys talk about the future of these characters, it had me thinking, would you guys be kind of mad if like these characters returned just to die? Like, I don't know why the thought came into my head, but like I was thinking Star-Lord comes back in Secret Wars and dies. Like that would absolutely like take me out of the movie because I'd be like, "Are you kidding me? You ruined."
And just do what Star Wars did.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill off all your legacy characters.
Like I don't want that. Like I just don't want it, and that's kind of why I don't want them to return. Like when I saw Star-Lord will return, I'm like, "Oh come, man, stop!" Like There was a few years where I didn't like Quill as a character because of the Infinity War. I don't like that version of Star-Lord very much. And I like how this movie just was like, you know what? We're gonna go back to what he was like before. But we're just gonna acknowledge the little. Like, here's the thing. I think. Okay, I could be reaching a little deep here. I think James Gunn did take the piss out of this movie a little bit, like Taika did with Thor. I think there's a little bit of like dissing Disney or dissing somebody.
Oh yeah,
definitely.
Like it's like that's not how Star-Lord acted, and I know he's done his like Twitter AMA thing, but like Star-Lord's helmet was destroyed in Guardians 2.
Yeah.
How did he get it back for Infinity War? And suddenly he doesn't have it in this film because it's like if you were gonna have him bring that stuff back. When he's like doing the thing with the cable and he's going back, like that's when I would have imagined the new helmet would have appeared and he does that. We didn't do that. So it's just like, as much as I like those Infinity War and Endgame movies, and I like the through line with a lot of the characters, Star-Lord felt like the most disservice by those films because they made him the jackass who ruined the whole fate of everybody. Just for this movie to kind of like retroactively make it funny and better. Because he's just like, I lost my temper. Okay. I lost to me, that brought him back.
I like that.
Like, I would like to see him, but I like the ending we got. They definitely redeemed him for me. But even still.
Okay, so I have a question because I didn't like a thing that they did here, and I'm not sure if I just don't understand kind of like the whole through line of.
You didn't like something?
I know, it's a shocker. I thought his like fake sacrifice at the end, his like death scene, I didn't get that. Like that felt like the most like, oh, we need an ending to this battle, so let's kill him off. Oh, we're not going to kill him off. Like I never felt for a second that he was going to die, because that would have just not made sense with like the whole movie. Like there's never once in that movie where I was like, oh yeah, he's dead. Like no, I don't know. I just didn't get that part. I guess.
No, I agree. I thought that bit was a bit like I didn't really like it, because it just didn't like, if he was making a sacrifice to save Rocket,
yeah,
that would make sense. But it was like they've done that 3 times now. I thought that's the only reason, just because they did it in the first one.
It kind of felt it felt like a callback to the first movie, but I thought it felt so random. Like it felt like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about it. It's very easy to tell. I'm like visibly reacting to all this. But here's the way I saw that, was that music has been such a big part of this trilogy that we almost lost it at the end. And Peter went back to save the music. Okay. I found that to be important. But let me pitch this to you, because I wanted to bring this up earlier. Let me know what you think of this. I didn't mind the recreating the picture of Adam, but wouldn't it have been a little bit better if it was Gamora who saved him? Because then that would reflect the first movie where he saved her by putting the mask on him. Because that way you don't have to do the whole romantic thing, but at least over the course of the film, we can solidify Gamora as becoming a guardian, but not the same, or like something like that. Yeah. Where it's like, after the course of this film, how much they've gone through, how many people they've killed to save Rocket, that she like is like, okay, you know what? This Quinn guy, because was like, he's not so bad of a guy. Let's go save him. Yeah. That would have been cool. I feel like that would have been a little bit more. It would have made that a little less redundant, because honestly, the thing that took me out of it was the face stretching, the elongating. I was like,
that's when I knew he wouldn't die.
Yeah, I was like, okay.
Like he doesn't have his god powers, right? Like
he's not,
all that's gone.
Yeah, he got rid of the celestial.
Unless there's a little bit still in him, I don't know.
Yeah, I like the idea of the music being that. Was that when the Dog Days Are Over came? Was that when that?
No,
played?
that was
the end.
That
was
later. Yeah. I don't know what played I don't know if anything played at that point, but he did go back and save it. But I don't think any song in particular played.
Yeah, I did like the Adam bit though. Like for what it was. It's like in a vacuum of space, quite literally. That was I thought that was cool, just because I liked Adam. I thought that was it worked.
The face puffy took me out of it.
Yeah,
that was the one for me.
That was weird. It didn't happen to anyone else.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good critique to not like something. That was the weird moment of the film for me.
Yeah,
I will say, like as we mentioned music, I love the transition for these musical themes from Peter to Rocket, and I think seeing his evolution to this being something that he's grasped onto, and it almost feels like a therapy to Rocket, diving into this music. And I think he connects music to family, because we see in all the flashback stuff where he hears music for the first time, and he feels entranced. And I think now, with Peter, I think has kind of started this, and this entire family, that's music, that's family. I don't know. I feel like there's a thing there that I thought was really beautiful.
Yeah. The only downside is the soundtrack just didn't hit for me this time.
I don't think it was as iconic as the first two, but I think each song probably does. I'm not a huge music guy. I don't know half. I don't know songs. I just don't. But if I bet someone would break it down and be like, oh yeah, this song symbolized this, and this song did this and this. I bet that's totally a thing. I would definitely agree though. I put on the music for 3 the other day, and I thought it was really good. But I ended up just going back to 1 and 2, just because I love those songs so much.
Yeah, like the song for the Tillerman when he remembers Yondu was just perfect. But this one had some good ones with Creep at the start. Dog Days Are Over is just it's a banger. It's an absolute banger, and I just think it's weird that James Gunn is obsessed with British indie from the 2000s. It's bizarre, because you had the
that's really funny. That's really funny. I didn't even think about that.
I don't get it. They had the Fratellis in Suicide Squad. Oh God, they had the wombats in the holiday special, and they've had Flo and the Mac in this. It's so weird. I want to. I've tweeted him quite a few times. I want to be like, did you pick up a cover CD from 2008 or something? Like, why is there so much British indie?
That's so interesting. I never thought about that before.
It's bizarre, but the Zune, I thought the Zune would have 2000s music on it. I thought it'd be like of the time, and I was like, oh, sick. They're gonna have like Fall Out Boy on it, but no, he's just had that on there. But the songs are good, and they all fit narratively. But it's just just didn't have like Come and Get Your Love. Come on,
no,
big bangers like that.
Sure. So I do want to mention, I know we talked about it a little bit, but I think that the High Evolutionary, I kind of want to mention him just real quick. I agree. I don't know if he's my favorite MCU villain, but I think he's absolutely like towards the top. I think that actor killed every scene. And I think what I like about this villain is he's just a villain. Like, he doesn't have no mode. Like, he is just a creeper, and I think that's a lot of fun. He's very like, he's such like a 90s villain. He's like, hey, I just wanted to do this thing. I don't care. Like, I have no morals. I'm just doing this thing because I wanted to, and I thought he was really great.
The line where it's like, there is no God, that's why I stepped in. Like, that was like the hardest line.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you had Thanos was like, oh, the hardest decisions require the whatever will. And it's like, cool. Like, Thanos was just a meme god when it came to his quotes. But like, that line went really hard. Like, that was such a good line. I was like, damn, all right, well, he's not wrong. He basically created all these different societies and people. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
I like that was a great scene.
Yeah, I like how so far, like, the best one's Killmonger. He wanted to end injustice, but the bad way. Thanos wanted to, like, he was just like a Greenpeace god. Like, he just wanted to like recycle and everything, but he wanted to just kill it, half of everyone. Like, there were quite leftist views in a lot of these, but they were the villain. I always thought that was weird. But this one, this guy's just a dick. It's just he's a narcissistic egomaniac, however you say that, prick. It's like you said, it's nice to have someone who's they're just evil.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's right. No one thinks he's right here.
So
I think sorry.
No, good.
I think that with the Guardians villains, each one gets better than the last. I think Ronan was fine.
Oh, yeah.
He was suitable. I kind of like Ronan. He's kind of growing on me. The big ass hammer is kind of cool. He's fun.
I like Ronan.
Ego, I love Ego. You know, there's something about daddy issues in movies that just gets me. I love that villain, but I feel like the High Evolutionary was like, once again, the peak of what James Gunn is going for in these films. Like, this character was so interesting, and like, there's so many great themes and beautiful things to discuss when it comes to stuff like Counter Earth, where it's like we just saw oh man, such great storytelling where we hear about Counter Earth from him, how it's described, how he went to Earth. It's very 1970s. We go to this woman's house. We're in there having the couch scene. It's all nice.
Oh, that's the best bit.
And then like 10 minutes later, everyone is dead. I'm like, oh God.
The dealing of Beth as well was so funny.
Yes.
It's just shit like Earth now. Because I found it interesting when he said, like, I've been to Earth, I heard your music. Yeah. And he's just, he made us, and then we made meth. But yeah, I liked it. I love the whole, when they swoop in, and it's like the Planet of the Apes style. Like, what is this uncanny valley, like, play world he's made? And I thought that was very, very good. But the couch scene, I was done. Just when he was just that comedy god.
I missed it the first time. I had to go to the bathroom so bad.
Oh no.
I was like, okay, I've seen this part in the trailer where the dodgeball hits. I'm going. I ran as fast as possible, came back, and I was like, okay, I didn't miss anything because it was right before the open the fucking door. So I was like, okay, we're good. I made it. I know what happened. They're gonna go find the guy. And then the second time I watched it, I was like, how did I miss the funniest part of the movie? That couch scene is so funny.
Yeah.
I know.
I will say, I think I think Drax's comedy hit the most here. Like I think
Yeah.
I liked him a lot in 1. I think it was a little overkill in 2. I still liked it. I still laughed at it. I think it was a little bit overkill, and here it just kind of felt like the perfect balance of like 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I just think like Drax as a whole was just like really good here.
Yeah. I think the whole kind of, I think they've, with Chris Pratt, them working off that kind of like escalating argument of quips worked very well, and that's,
Yeah.
I think it worked because the actors have had so much time together. They know their
Mm-hmm.
timings and that as well. And that, and
I think one of my favorite, I won't say it was my favorite bit, but I like the opening bit when like they're talking about like what to do with Star-Lord and like how, like what they're gonna do, and it was just like that back and forth between like all the characters and like their family. Like I love it. Like
yeah,
it feels like I don't know. It's just kind of like the peak of like the whole Guardians crew. So I do want to end like as we are hitting the hour mark. I do kind of want to ask you guys about Gamora, because I think the first time I watched it, I wasn't a big fan of the like Star-Lord like kind of like back and forth with her and like that placement. I kind of thought some of Quill's stuff was a little bit annoying early on. Like, you know, the whole like trying to get her back stuff. As I thought it made a lot of sense, it kind of bugged me after a while, but I watched it again and it didn't bother me as much. Sorry, I would be very curious to hear like what your guys' thoughts are on those two characters and kind of how they wrapped those two up too, because I know there's been a lot of back and forth about what they should have done with them.
yeah. I think that their ending worked really well. How I'm glad they didn't fall in love again or whatever, and I'm glad they ended it with that's not the woman that fell in love with him, or that's not the woman he fell in love with. She hasn't had that lived experience of Guardians 1. She never kind of got over kind of like her edge. Her edge was never blunted by listening to his Walkman and that. And I thought it was very well done how he was just gutted. And I was so worried about the Gamora thing, because when she came back and stayed in Endgame, I was like, oh, come on, like why have you done this? But I thought that it worked really well. She wasn't just like a hard-nosed woman or whatever for the sake of it. It was just kind of, she hasn't had that experience, and he's got to let it. He's just got to accept that that's not her. It's not his Gamora. And I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe Gamora in this film. I don't think there's much more that I can like add on to that, other than like I like the character. I thought it was good. I thought it's interesting to know after the fact that James Gunn was thinking about killing her in Guardians 2, and then what that could have been like. That completely changes the trajectory of those characters. So I think it's interesting to keep Gamora after everything with Endgame. I thought that was an interesting choice. So I was nervous to see how they would go in this film, and I think it was suitable. I think it was fine. I kind of preferred Nebula and Gamora's relationship over the Peter and Gamora stuff in this film.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I'd agree.
I genuinely do think that if Gamora would have been the one to save Peter at the end, I would be like tenfold, 100%. This was fantastic, because even though she has no idea that happened to her before, she still went out to go save him. That is so cathartic in my brain. But that didn't happen. And that's not me like saying the movie sucks now because my little fan thing didn't happen. That's not the case. It's just I could have had a little more, but I'm not disappointed at all with the way they ended it. I did not want to get together. I feel like I would have hated it if they ended up together.
Yeah, same.
Oh, yeah.
I love the ending where she went back to her this Gamora's found family with the Ravagers. I love that bit. How
that was just great.
How she just was so embraced by those Ravagers, and I just wish we had a bit more of them. I do wish we had a bit more of Stacker and Miley Cyrus's head, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was very I did like the whole found family thing that she had found, and I thought that was such a wholesome thing. I kind of figured, I guess I just kind of thought but by the end of it, she was going to like rejoin the team and be like, I'm not your lover, but I'll be your fan or something weird, right? But I think this is such a better ending for her as well. Like it feels just like a very I do really appreciate some very open-ended endings. I think that's really what it was. I
Yeah.
think it kind of leaves room for like, well, maybe someday they could make something work. Maybe someday they can find some common ground. But right now, they both need to move on and find who they are. And I think that's the overall theme for like a lot of these characters. It just being like, well, this has been my family. This has been my like comfort spot for so long. But now it's time to face the music and see what's next. And yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting. I was honestly kind of shocked about Mantis as well, because like I wasn't expecting her to leave the crew. I thought like out of all the characters, she was one that might like stick around.
Yeah, I didn't expect that at all.
But it also makes sense. Like I think with like everything, it makes sense that she would need to find herself. I think out of all the characters, she's the one that's most up for like a Disney Plus show or something, I don't think a movie, but like a special presentation or something where it's like her,
an animated thing, like
something.
I Am Groot.
But that's all I have at like the top of my head. Are there any categories that you guys have that you kind of want to bring up?
We never talked about Adam Warlock
Okay.
that much, because I feel like there's a conversation to be had there. I think some people are mad because he doesn't have the Soul Stone, doesn't have the connection to Thanos, doesn't have any of the bigger stuff. But like they already did that. So what do you want them to do?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like 6 years since that post-credit scene. Like, what do you want them to do? You know,
that was my problem going into it when they were having Adam Warlock, and my criticism with a lot of the MCU is they bring these characters in after their iconic stories. They didn't have Titan Quest, they didn't have Infinity Watch, they didn't have him with the gauntlet in the iconic image. But what they did was so good, in my opinion, because if you read the comics, he's born and he doesn't know what the fuck is going on. He fights Thor and then he has to find himself as Counter-Earth's champion, and I think that he kind of just doesn't know who he is because he's just literally born yesterday. So I think that what I think is the greatest part of Will Porter's performance is that he plays him like a British toff. He plays him like the posh guy you'd meet at university who has no clue about the world, doesn't know anything. His mummy's always cooked his food. He doesn't know what a fork is, doesn't know how to turn on a microwave. And the dynamic between him and Elizabeth Debicki's character was just so good. It was fun. And playing it, I think that really worked. It gave that comedy. I mean, you could have the badass guy. You could have the badass guy who is like one-dimensional, the Winter Soldier style guy who comes in and fights everything. But we've had that. That's just it wouldn't work in this, in my opinion. And having him not know what's going on and then have to work. The line where he said like, "Oh, that's making me sad. I don't like this." I was like, that just worked. So, but I get why people are annoyed by it. I understand that people wanted the superhero throwdown, but that's not really who Adam Warlock is, in my opinion, in the comics. He maybe later when he starts taking on Thanos and gets stuck in Soul World and stuff.
I don't want to spoil anything from the Guardians game just for anybody, but that's kind of like my preferred version of that character. I found him to be very interesting, more than I had ever seen before. So I was like, oh, this is really cool. I didn't think that Guardians 3 was going to do that at all. And honestly, yeah, we would have gotten the strongman one-dimensional character, I could already see the MCU fumbled Adam Warlock, one-dimensional piece of crap character. Yeah. I could have seen that coming from a mile away. But Will Poulter like nailed exactly what needed to happen with that character in this film. I love that scene you brought up about like I don't like the way this is making me feel. Like that to me was great. I think the only problem that I actually had with the character was we did not have a scene after his mother's death where we acknowledge that. I feel like that was the one that really got us like away from him, that lost focus of where he was going with his character arc. I feel like we needed something there. But other than that, I mean, we still get the main crux of his story, and it's just, I assume it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
I feel like he's the one character out of this that's like, let's get him somewhere else. Go somewhere else.
Yeah,
you
Will
know?
Poulter's he's a megastar. He's a bankable star. He was great in was it Dope Sick as well, and he's just been great in every movie. I think he's got that comedic. He's the MCU guy. He's the buff, shredded, super jacked guy. Great actor, but he's also got the quips. He's also got the timing as well.
Is it too premature to say he's like a Chris Hemsworth replacement because he's the big buff guy who has the comedy? He's kind of got all the things there, because I don't know how much
except he can act.
Play Thor. Damn.
I'm not a big Chris Hemsworth fan.
I get it. After Love and Thunder, it really just made me get rid of all love for the character at that point.
Yeah, I was so excited for that movie. I saw it at the premiere. I got invited to the media screening in London, and I was so excited. I went out with my girlfriend. They had the hammer, they had everything, and then I was like, "Oof, what did they do?
Why? Just that movie gives me such a headache." But another thing that I kind of wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts are is, now that we've had both filmmakers, Taika Waititi and James Gunn, tackle the Thor Guardians of the Galaxy connection, with James Gunn not acknowledging it at all, and then Taika putting it in one scene and then being done. Do you think we should have just gotten rid of that thing in Endgame where they're together? Because it felt like, why put it in there if neither one of the filmmakers gave a single shit about it? Like, they did not want to do that. Why did we tease it? Whose idea was it? Why didn't we do anything with it? Because I feel like there's room for the story to work either way. If you want to put him in either film, or put vice versa, whatever, the Guardians and Thor and Guardians. But we just didn't do anything. It didn't do anything other than give us probably one of the worst returning jokes in Thor: Love and Thunder with the goats. Like that's what Guardians gave us. Thank you for that. Like,
I think there was definitely more at first, and then things happened, and then they were like, okay. Like, I know there was a bunch of things with like James Gunn and Marvel where like maybe he had these plans at first, and then they're like, well, I'll just come back one more time, and then that's it, or whatever.
Yeah.
So I wonder if maybe instead of the Christmas special, it was supposed to be like a Guardians Thor kind of like special or whatever.
Sure.
That could have made sense.
That would have made a lot more sense. Yeah.
I know. I'm curious because like I remember being so excited when that scene first happened. I was like, Thor's in Guardians 3, let's go. Like, I remember being super hyped about that. Looking at it now, I'm very glad he was not. As much as I love Thor and I love like Chris Hemsworth, I don't see how he would have fit in this movie at all. High Evolutionary would have died in 2 seconds, or at least should have. Just chopped off the head. It makes I do have to wonder what their original plan was.
Yeah, I'd love to know what I think with Endgame, it felt like they were just setting up. They just went, here's everything that might happen. Because you've got Old Man Cap, who's there, passed on the shield, and then he gave it back. That was just like, why?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like you said, Darren, it's just, I'm glad they didn't do that. But the best bit of Thor: Love and Thunder was the opening with the Guardians and the Van Damme splits. Like, if the whole movie was just that, I would have been like, that's cool.
That would have been so much better. Would have been so much better.
Yeah. Just if that was like they just chucked everything at the wall. Like, Gore was great in the 2 scenes he was in. But
I'm really glad we didn't get to see any butchering of gods by the God Butcher. That was cool.
We heard about it.
Good job, guys.
So Lady Sif.
Great job, guys. Nailed it.
Lady Sif died off screen or was injured off screen.
You brought up something with...
Sorry,
just so this is a little thing, because I swear to God, if Captain America 4 comes out and Sam is struggling to be Captain America still, I'm gonna lose it. Because him giving the shield away in the beginning, I'm like, oh, come on. And then him getting it in the end, I swear, if he is still struggling in Captain America 4 to be Captain America, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my shit because I'm so excited to see him. I never understood that. I want him to be Captain America. Just let him be Captain America. Do the things, man. Much like Superman, how we were talking about, I don't want to see Krypton die again. I don't want to see this man struggle to pick up the damn shield anymore. Just do it. Okay.
I was so worried for that movie.
I'm so worried about that one. It seems like a Hulk sequel.
I think that's either going to be one of the best things they ever make or utter garbage. Like there's no in between. Like I think all these Hulk characters could work because I think most of them will be minor outside of like Ross. Like I think She-Hulk, I think Betty, I think those are like almost cameo type things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like it feels like there's a lot. Like this almost feels like an Avengers type movie with like kind of like its like status. Like it feels like there's a lot riding on both this and the Thunderbolts. Like that almost feels like a part 1, part 2 punch. I'm nervous, but I'm also like really excited because I think if it's done right, it could be one of their best movies. Like I think there's so much riding on it.
Yeah, it could be The Winter Soldier, or it could be Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah,
there's no in between. I don't know. I'm just not excited for it because obviously the whole thing with the blood plot in She-Hulk that went, it didn't go anywhere, did it? It just didn't. I think
no, it was all like kind of went away with the Wolverine King.
Yeah, and
they're like, oh, it's all wrapped up now. It's fine.
I mean, I like that. I'm not.
I do. I do too, but I think it could have been done neater. Like I think there's a way you could have, I don't know, done that because I think that's very creative. It's very fun. It's very like 2022. Like it's very like Easter eggs and references and wall break stuff.
They should have broke the fourth one more. They should have done it.
Yeah.
Like should have done it more often, so it wasn't so jarring at the end when you had they make fun of themselves with the AI scripts.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Captain America 4 is just, what is that going to be about? It's just it from what it sounds like what I thought Black Widow would be, like a spy kind of thriller, except she had to break her nose so some guy can't smell her or something. It was just it's concerning. But I mean,
I do wonder if that project will feel a lot more like, I think it'll make a lot more sense after Secret Invasion, because I think a lot of that, like, it feels like there's like a long-term like story there with like Secret Invasion to Cap 4 to the Thunderbolts to the Rhodey movie, Iron Wars?
Armor Wars.
Armored. Yeah.
That's it.
It feels like a long-term story that's like they're filming with like these like government like spy type thriller type projects.
Because you've got like MI13. Well, hoping you have MI13 and all that going on with Olivia Colman's character, but I really doubt it because they're just doing that thing where it's like, oh, this is a character who's in the comics, but not. They just change it too much. But yeah, I think Secret Invasion might change the landscape of the grounded part of the MCU, which they've never been able to differentiate, have they? Which I've found it's never been like, this is great on the street level, and then the space stuff's going on.
Yeah,
but it'd be interesting to see with Secret Invasion.
I've talked about it a little bit. I think we are building towards a world where they're afraid of superheroes. Like I think we are introducing this like government type storyline, and that will lead to like the mutants, where like a world where like they're afraid of superpowers. I think that will lead very nicely into phase, I don't know, fucking 8 or whatever it is.
I don't know how they're going to bring the mutants in, because
I think they have to be new. I think it has to be like a brand new thing.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it's too damn big. Like I feel like the X-Men are like too big to bring in just to be another thing for the MCU. Like I feel like they're going to have to be like a focus, because there's so many of them. There's so many. Like, and it'd be a waste to not include a majority of them. You know,
I swear to God, if we have First Class again.
Oh my God.
I think post the saga has to be all about them. I think it's like them, Fantastic Four,
which is kind of redundant because we wanted them all to interact with the rest of the people, but now we're just doing it again where they're separate, basically.
Yeah, unless they reset it all after Secret Wars.
I've thought about that too, where like I would hate that, honestly, but I don't know if I'd hate it. It's weird.
There's irony there. That's just poetic irony there. Like,
I just think that with me with that, I'm like, they finally got all the tools together now, because obviously they've had to. I mean, an Iron Man movie. Who would have thought, like, 2008 Iron Man movie? I was like, this is why? And then it turned out to be really good. And then but now you can have the Avengers with all the characters. You can have everyone in it, and you can have the X-Men introduced. They can all kind of blend together, because that's what I always thought was really cool, was like reading the comics as a kid. I was like, oh, all these people were together in New York City, and like you'll be reading an X-Men comic, and like Spider-Man will fly by and that. So I think they could. It would kind of be cringy and like a meme that they're going to reset it all, but they've got all of the tools together now. They have all of the characters, all of the licenses, except fully for some of them. But yeah, I think I wouldn't hate it if they did it right.
I think there's pros and cons to it. Honestly, this is why I think the only Marvel universe being the MCU is dumb. Like, I think the fact that we can never play with like Iron Man and like Steve Rogers and Black Widow and Thor and all these characters, because they're gone in this universe, is dumb. Like, I think you should be able to have like an animated Iron Man movie, or like a Netflix Black Widow movie or something. I think retiring these characters, me and Buddy have talked about this with like the Black Panther character, where like just because we have killed off that character in the MCU, it should not mean that we shouldn't be able to use that character in other mediums. Because I think
that bothers me. The games, we have like 2 or 3 Black Panther games where T'Challa is dead every time, or he's not there. Why?
That's the thing. When DC Fandom, I remember when Jim Lee announced it, and it was like, all of the games, everything's connected. All the comics, they're all one. They're all one world. And then it didn't happen, obviously, with everything's. God no, I don't even know what the Arrowverse world and what's going on with that, but but the idea that you could have your entire brand be all connected and they all be part of the same continuity is pretty cool. But they've wasted it with the animation. The What If was just, but an animated thing would work very well. I think it would, but they have an aversion to trying.
Bringing up What If brings me up one of my favorite jokes. I just gotta say it. What if was good? That's what I want to know. Sorry, I love that joke. I can't fucking help it. Okay.
No, it's such a shame. Such a shame with that. I hated the animation style as well. It reminded me of like the artist. I don't know if you've read Infinity Warps, where whoever the artist did that, I can't stand it. It just doesn't sit well with me. But I think that they do miss a beat. But they've got the animated X-Men coming soon.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I wanted Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That's what I wanted. I
hope that's next. I think this opens the door.
Please.
I wanted Wolverine in the X-Men because that was my. I got canceled after one season. I hate that. No, but I think animation. I've been talking about this nonstop for like the last 10 streams. So I think like animation is the best medium for these stories, and I think I hope it feels like animation is finally getting that. I think with like Mario's and Transformers and Garfield, it feels like animation is becoming more popular for these like big like pop culture films and stuff. So I hope like Spider-Verse can hopefully open the door for Marvel, where it's like, let's do like a Wolverine movie or something. I also think James Gunn. Awesome. I think like James Gunn will also like. It feels like he is very like dedicated to like these animated projects. So I think it'd be very cool to have like Superman and Batman like live action, and then do like a Plastic Man like animated movie or something, or like I don't know, like a Dr. Fate animated show or something. Like I think you have so many characters that can fit in that world much better than like live action.
Yeah, that's the problem I had with the TV shows, where I was just like, oh, they're gonna do episodic stuff, but it just turned out to be just one big globule of a movie. Turned out to be like The Irishman, where it's just such a long movie.
Sure.
And they wasted that whole episodic, where obviously the great thing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it came out was just like, oh, cool, we're going to like have stuff come out. Like the movies are really like, oh, there's this thing. And then they're going to explore, like they explored it with like the artifacts and that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just a movie. There's no like kind of expanding the universe from the movie, because obviously no one wants to watch like a 6-7 hour 8 movie, but you want to have a movie be a movie. But with the TV show, you could have an episodic, explore these characters which wouldn't necessarily be bankable.
100%. You're like not taking the medium to its advantage if you're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's like the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like an oversight there.
I think that I think a bit of both is good. Like, I think Secret Invasion feels perfect as like your 6-episode event. Like, I think that totally works. You're like Loki, that works in like a 6-episode event. But like your Miss Marvel should have been like a 13-episode show where you like really explore that character. I think a She-Hulk could have been your 13 episodes. I think I guess Falcon worked as like a 6-episode event, but it still needed one more.
I feel like that needed a few more.
Yeah. No, I think it just depends on what show you're making and the stories that you're telling. And I think it's cool, like having like these longer type movies. Like, I think that's dope. And then you even have your like special presentations where you can have like a short film, like you can have a 45-minute thing and that's it.
Yeah.
I honestly, I would take an advantage of that soon. Like, I think that they need more of that. I don't think every hero needs 7 hours of content.
I think the only ones really do it well was, I think that they all start off really well. Like with WandaVision, I thought it'd be a different TV show send up of the week. But then it was like, okay, well, now we're just going to go straight into a movie. And then She-Hulk could have been a funny case of the week. But yeah, Miss Marvel was absolute nonsense at times. It was just like, we had the clandestine, nothing like the comics, touched a stone and died, and then that wasn't even like the story. And then but the special presentations, Werewolf by Night, was just, that was fucking brilliant. That was, I thought the woman who played Elsa Bloodstone was great. I'm going to take my Nevers actors where I can find them at this point, because I'm never getting a second season of that. But yeah, I think the presentations, that's the thing. They're just not gonna. They don't capitalize on. There's that formula, and again, they self-reported by saying with the Feige bot. So
no, I do think that's one of the like things with like, they make all these shows like they made all these shows at once, so they had no time to be like, oh, this isn't working, we need to redo it. It's like, oh no, it's out, like we have to wait. Like, I think the like next saga of shows and stuff will be much better, because I think they'll be like look at Daredevil, was them being like, oh, you guys wanted a TV show, here's 18 hours or whatever. I don't think it's only 18 hours, but here's 18 episodes. I hope we get more of that. I want more Shield. I want more stuff like that. I mean, I would take another, like, not Shield exactly, but like a new team of agents.
Can we get Agents of Shield again?
I would love. I don't think you can do that exact same show again. Like, I think you need like a new cast. Maybe not all new cast. Like, get Mac, get May, and then like a whole new cast. I think could be really.
See, that's the biggest mistake I think of the MCU, is them getting rid of Shield. I mean, the Hydra reveal was good, obviously, but it ruined your show. Well, it didn't ruin it, but it ruined what it could have been. But I love Agents of Shield, so
I still think you could probably do Sword if you wanted to. Like, I know we're obviously doing like some sort of thing like that, but I could see like a show like after the Marvels being like, okay, we're gonna, maybe not with like Nick Fury, because I don't think he'd do that kind of thing, but
he'll appear at the end, like season 1.
Like, you can get. I think Daisy is a character you can bring back in pretty easily without dragging in everything, like 7 seasons worth of stuff from her.
Yeah, you could just have a version of her. I think she would be great as the leader of an Abigail Brand stand-in, and have her lead the Peak after, or no, Saber isn't it now? It's Sword and Saber.
I think they changed it to something weird.
What?
They changed it. Yeah, they changed Sword to like Saber or something.
So wait, Sword just doesn't exist anymore? It's Saber
like
now?
I think so.
After Hayward? Is that it?
I think it's the base. I think the base in the comics, it was the Peak was their like base.
Okay.
Sword was their Sword was the obviously Sword and Shield. They love their kind of jokey things there. And then the Peak, but the Peak in the Marvels trailer was called Saber. So I think it's that's where the Sword lives, in the Saber. So I think that's what they.
That's all right. I'll give you that. Okay, all right.
I know. I don't love it. I'm going to make the best of an interesting situation, but I'm just
definitely a choice.
But the Marvels. Sorry,
do we think we're going to see Daisy in the Secret Invasion show?
I hope so, but it's not gonna happen. I don't think it's gonna happen.
I mean, considering she was a secret Avenger, it makes it. She should do, but
Yeah.
I think they just pretend that doesn't exist.
It's so. I think if you can bring back Punisher, you can bring back Daisy. Like Punisher's the hardest character out of all the TV characters to bring back, right?
Yeah.
I don't see. I guess it's just like popularity, probably, right? Like I guess Daisy isn't as popular as like Punisher or Daredevil or Kingpin.
Yeah, because obviously, like John Bernthal was the Punisher. Was just like you had so many stop starts with the Punisher thing. You had like Thomas Jane. I can't remember who the other guy was. I think he's a British. Oh no, he's the guy who's going to be in the Acolyte. No, Ray Stevenson was in a movie. But yeah, I think the John Bernthal kind of like you know, like you get he stamped his ID on that. But yeah, I think the AOS fandom, we've got to take the L.
Yeah, I feel like only the real nerds, like the people who are still getting made fun of. So the ones who are gonna like, I know, because like you have people who are big Marvel fans, but like we're the Agents of Shield fans. There's a difference there because it's great. Oh, it's amazing. Like I love Agents of Shield, but like nobody in the mainstream is like, where's Daisy except us? Okay,
we're the Marvel Snyderverse fans. That's who we are.
I'm still waiting for Daisy, guys. Like. And listen, I'll die on that hill. I'm ready for her return, but I don't think it's ever happening.
It's so annoying because like I think it was season 4 had like Ghost Rider, and then it connected to the Doctor Strange,
and
then you had they mentioned like when all of us fandom went off with they mentioned Thanos twice and what's happening in New York, and then obviously that they had the Quantum Realm.
Cool.
But that's all we're gonna get, unfortunately. I'd love to see Daisy. I want to see Coulson return and then be like, "Oh, you're alive." Did
that show end in an alternate timeline?
I think it did.
Wasn't that like the thing?
I always thought that like they went back. Like I think that was kind of what I took at the end. Like they separated in season 5, and then when they go back through time at the end, they circle back into our world. That might just be me being like, I need my heroes or whatever. But no, that's my headcanon. But like, here's the thing: if you can include Inhuman characters, you can include Shield characters. Because if this is Agents of Shield, this is Inhumans.
I never thought to see Black Bolt return before Coulson.
Yeah. Oh my.
I just never thought that would happen.
I think it's so weird because I do think Coulson is in the show. I think the issue is which Coulson. Is it like Skrull Coulson that's been dead for 5 years or something? Or
that's the thing. It's just obviously they had him in Captain Marvel, didn't they?
Yeah.
De-aged, and he wasn't in for like 2 scenes. Right. What if as well? But it's just it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to. I want it to happen, but it's.
It would be really funny if they brought them all back just to be Skrulls. Now, I feel like I'd be like, "Damn, you got me. I asked for them back. We got them, but we didn't get them the way I wanted."
Honestly, I would take it. I would take
it too.
You could do that with so many people.
Better than her being a mutant.
Is Rhodey going to be a Skrull, guys? Are we going to do it? So. Is it happening?
It'd be funny if they brought back the other guy. Terrence Howard.
Oh my god, that would be so funny.
But they made him wrong.
I would have massive respects to Disney.
Yeah. If they tried to like copy him, but they got the wrong guy.
Could you imagine we have a scene where like they flash back to Iron Man and it's literally Terrence Howard, and then they're like, what happened here? And it's actually a Skrull. Like I would lose my shit. Like that's the Rick and Morty writing that I would be expecting there.
Yeah.
We talked about that. That would definitely be interesting.
No, I like that. It would be interesting if that happened, but I think it's tough because you've got Armor Wars and that, and you've got the whole thing going on with Wakanda, like that whole CIA stuff with Wakanda Forever and that. But
I think Secret Wars might be the original Rhodey. I think the Rhodey that we're following now is a Skrull, and I think the Rhodey that we see in Secret Invasion is like the old one that's been gone for like 5 years.
That'd be cool.
And him trying to get his life back and trying to going through like a midlife crisis, being like, I missed my friend's funeral. I did all these things.
Yeah, what the hell happened?
I'm really confused with Nick Fury's whole story, and then seeing him in the Marvels trailer, I'm really confused on the timeline of him right now. I don't. Yeah, I'm lost.
Yeah,
I'll admit it. I'm lost.
Yeah, it's weird because he was at the end of Far From Home, and then he's on like this whole space station. I'd imagine they built it after in the in the early 90s, but then they've never mentioned that ever. They didn't get an early warning for the Outriders coming and landing in Wakanda or anything like that. That's the problem. This is what I'm saying about how they don't build on stuff. They don't just they're adding stuff in retroactively and it's breaking everything.
Yeah. I think that is just the issue with almost like any like cinematic universe. It's always like last minute we have to like start doing stuff because like they make so much at once. It's hard to go back into. But with all that being said, I do want to thank both of you guys for being here today. We had a very fun conversation about both Guardians and the entire MCU and the DCU and a whole bunch of stuff. I do want to say before I hop off here, guys, go make sure you guys check out both of these guys' stuff. Superhero Nexus makes some great content. Buddy, you have a whole backlog of amazing content. Both
I don't think it's amazing, but thanks. Appreciate that.
I know, man. I do. I've always really enjoyed your stuff. I think it's.
Thank you.
There's always I swear there's always someone that's like, come back, buddy. I'm like, I think he's done. I think he's done here.
Lance keeps asking me to come back, and I refuse. I think it's done. We'll see. We'll see if there's anything in the future. But
I wish I could say I'm done. I've quit like 4 times, and I've just keep coming back.
I feel it, man. But guys, all of their links are down below. All their gaming channels and their Twitches and their Twitters and all that fun stuff linked down below. Little bit of an update for tomorrow. We will be doing a stream. I will be doing a stream, talk about all the DC stuff for this week. Superman Lois, Gotham Knights, Titans, Flash, all of it in one giant stream. So I hope to see some of you guys then. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the special guests today. I will see you guys on the flip side, though. Bye-bye.